Almost recording? It's almost okay, it's recording. Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Anime Social Club once again with your boy Kid Benji, joined with the beautiful New Zealander himself, Etyo.
Yo
How's it going,
guys, how's it going?
And another interesting turn of events. We are down a member again for the second week in a row, unfortunately. But sadly,
I
Kuro.
tagged out. We
Yeah.
tagged out.
Yeah, there wasn't enough Isekai last week, so Etyo had
Yeah,
a.
we're bringing it all this week. It's gonna be fun.
Exactly. Yeah. So you guys can expect no mention of One Piece or Gintama, and no mention of but in the manga. So that's what you can expect.
Wow, that's great.
But yeah, sadly Kuro couldn't be here. It really sucks, but she should be here next week, so we should have the full cast next week as well. And but regardless, we're still gonna have an amazing show. We got a lot in store for you guys today, as you can obviously tell. This is definitely a passionate topic. Yes, Akari, I know what I said last week. Okay, Akari in the chat says that's what you said last week. I cry every time. Okay. But
It feels bad.
But regardless, though, we're gonna have a good time. We're not gonna trash talk One Piece or Gintama, okay? Because we know that she has her homies in the chat watching out for her, okay?
Yeah.
But
I mean, we don't need to be honest, because we're gonna be talking about something completely different.
completely different in this podcast. As one of our chatters is reminding us, is she will tell, okay? No doubt, no doubt. But apart from that, though, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. And if you guys are watching the video version of this podcast, this is also available on every single podcast platform. Links are always available down below, as well as if you are listening to this on the audio version, you can get the entire experience, including the Twitch chat and that whole interaction on our YouTube channel. Go ahead and search Anime Social Club on YouTube, and you can search Anime Social Club on Spotify, iTunes, everything else. And give us a like, thumbs up, comment, give us a rating. Anything helps towards the podcast, and subscribe to us on Twitch and on YouTube. So there's all the promotional stuff out of the way. So with all that being said, let's just jump right into it. Are you ready yet, you? Fucking ready?
I'm ready, dude. I'm ready.
You're ready. So as our resident Isekai expert, I guess, we're gonna
Wow,
be doing
that's a lot of pressure.
yeah. I mean, it's totally self-inflicted, but we're gonna be, as the title states, exploring Isekai. So what does that mean? Couple of quick points that we're gonna be hitting on today are, what is an Isekai? Why is it so dominant? What's our ideal Isekai? What's our favorite Isekai? And the future of Isekai in general. So if you are unfamiliar with the idea of Isekai, or you're new to anime and you have no idea what Isekai is, essentially it's and we're gonna change, the topic might change a little bit here. Some people might consider it a subgenre of anime that deals with people going into a different world. That's like the very layman's terms for I don't know whether to say trope or genre, but yeah, we're gonna be expanding on that a little bit more.
The direct translation of isekai is just other world.
Yeah.
What it means.
Yeah, in Japanese, the straight translation is other world. So, yeah, let's go ahead and start with what is an isekai? You know what it is?
Okay.
I don't know. I'm gonna pretend I don't know.
I think I have a solid idea of what an isekai is. I think a lot of people don't. But let's start. I already want to go to the next topic already. I already want to discuss like why it's so dominant, or what the people's views on it is and how that feels it. But I think from my position, I think an isekai is not as much of a genre as it is a trope.
Okay.
But to get there, I want to talk about what genre is in general. So
Mm,
I think genre in general is something that is supposed to guide us to understand what the goal is of the story, right?
mm-hmm.
So when I say there's action in this movie, you're gonna expect someone to hit someone else in the face or shoot a gun or some sort of action to take place. And in the same form, I would expect Isekai to then fulfill that role. So I think that if it was under the genre like um, label, I would have to then use that same format to then say, okay, if I look at isekai as a genre, then it needs to fulfill certain aspects of that genre. Otherwise, it's not going to actually um, be of any use to us because
Yeah.
that's the point of a genre.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just start where we can with that. I guess
Yeah. Yeah.
we
So
can.
I kind of disagree, but I agree in certain sense.
Okay.
I don't really see it. I see it more as a subgenre is what I'm trying to say, because
Okay.
when it comes to isekai in general, right, there are a lot of obvious similarities between a lot of these types of shows, right, and you can kind of predict a little bit what's going to happen in a show that has the isekai tag, because it's a little bit predictable up to a certain extent, as to when they come into the world, the unexpectedness of it, how it's approached, the overall narrative structure of what an isekai would be, right? And
Mm.
I feel like when it comes to like putting it into a subgenre, like you're always tagging it before you define it, right? In terms of like what it is. So for example, you have isekai where it's like more of a fantasy adventure, or where it's more of like just like even a restaurant that they go to. It's an otherworldly destination. You know,
Mm.
and that other like the what happens in that whole course of that otherworldly destination, whether it is to be there and come back or stay, or however that process goes. I feel like you need to tag it with action and then isekai. It's an action isekai, or it's a slice of life isekai, or it's a comedy isekai. You're always gonna have the predefining genre before the tag of isekai. So that's why I view it more as like a subgenre rather than just strictly a genre, but not necessarily a trope, I would say.
Okay, so not a trope, more a genre. Okay, so with that being said, then if we were to look at it as a subgenre, what would define it as a subgenre, as an isekai? How would we
A
actually get
good
to that point?
That is a good
Like,
question. Yeah, that is a great
so
question.
so what I think is our baseline, right? There needs to be some sort of realization of two worlds being present, right?
Mm, not necessarily.
Well, at least mention of one, right? There
Yes,
needs to be
exactly.
at
Yeah.
least a knowledge of two separate worlds, not necessarily knowing both of them exist or how they both look,
Yes, yes,
just
yes, yes.
knowing of two. I think that's an important place to start.
Yeah, there needs to be another world in
Yeah,
some sense. Yeah, I agree on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think also the second point I think is very important, which is there needs to be some sort of recognition by the main character that took place.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So if he doesn't have knowledge or memory of the previous world that he was in, I would, unless we've seen that transfer take place, I would not call it an isekai. I would not be able to say that is an isekai.
I know what you're referencing. And I know why you're picking the words you're picking.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. Yeah.
Um maybe. Okay. I feel like okay, you said yeah, the characters have to acknowledge or allude to a prior world, right? Would you agree with that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And the shit. Cuz I don't want to try to okay, what he's talking about is Grimgar Fantasy no Grimoire.
Fantasy of Ash.
Yeah,
Fantasy of Ash.
Fantasy of Ash, in which in that show, I call it an isekai because they obviously came from a different world, right? Hence their clothes. They just don't recall the previous world. Um, but you would say that it's not an isekai because they don't remember the previous world.
I would say the subgenre doesn't fulfill its purpose. So if you were to call it an isekai, then the story would not be fulfilling that subgenre. Yes. You can
Uh,
call it that for the sake of it, but it's not actually pursuing that concept. The
okay.
concept is very different.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a helpful genre to slap onto it.
Okay. Well, I mean, so I was going to so I've heard the term isekai thrown around in regards to like Inuyasha, right? And
Yes.
I wouldn't really consider Inuyasha an isekai
Okay,
because
I haven't seen it, so you're gonna have to fill me in.
yeah, basically she goes into this well which gives her access to this other world, right? But she's able to go
Okay.
back and forth between the two worlds. And to give you more of a contextual alignment with that, I would say like Digimon kind of operates in the same space. The Devil is a part timer, operates in the same space.
Gate?
Gates
Yeah.
operates in the same space, right? They're able to
Mm.
transition in between their world and another one, right? I feel
Yeah.
like though when that is a component of the story, you've then eliminated yourself from being an isekai at that point,
Yes.
right?
If you, yeah, I feel like I agree with you on that because I think an isekai has this experience of being trapped somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a necessity for the person to actually not have control over where they can be positionally. Like, um, like I would like if I were to think of a genre that would be helpful in describing that type of transfer to another world, I would use parallel universe.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I would use because you can clearly see both worlds at the same time and they're both very active.
mm-hmm.
They're not one isn't less seen than the other. They're both accompanied the same amount of time,
Yeah. And
which I
so
would call parallel world. Yeah.
exactly. So Calcifer in the chat says Inuyasha is because the whole anime is centered around it. Um, and so that's and that is a valid point. And then so let me clarify my distinction even further, right? So it's not necessarily just so much as them being trapped in another world, right? I think the two worlds need to operate independently of one another, right? Because
Mm.
when you have a interactivity between the two worlds, you're essentially not creating two worlds. You have an interconnectivity of two worlds, right? So you could say, in some essence, they both exist within the same plane of existence, right? And so they're dependent on one another for their ability to be around, right? It's the same reason why you wouldn't call like Cowboy Bebop an isekai, right? They're going to another world, like they're essentially going to a different planet, right? But since every planet has its place within the universe, and there's a connectivity and a kind of like a balance to the nature of their universe, right? I wouldn't consider an isekai. Whereas like in Sword Art Online, right, they're in another world, and then that world has no bearing on the operation of their current world, right?
I disagree 100%.
Hold on. I knew you were. That's why I brought that up. So their world of SAO, right, is this virtually this digitally generated a space, right, where they mentally exist, right? But that digitally existing world doesn't have any dependence as far as like its operational like nature in terms of like for example in like I'll just use like Soul Society. or like the in Digimon, right? When you since all the Digimon were essentially made up of data, you could do things in the digital world that would have real world effects, you know, in terms of like when they would defeat a certain Digimon or they would destroy a certain building, that building was a data representation of a physical thing in the real world. So it had an effect on it because they were interconnected in a way, right? Whereas in SAO, when you like destroyed like a building or something like that, you're not affecting the real world. You're just affecting what's going on in that world in that game, right? Now, does that still
Except from the fact that when you die in real life.
exactly? But again, I'm using a very specific term, world, not people, not person. I'm using world, right? Because in any of these shows or subgenres that we're breaking it into, right? The characters themselves always have a personal impact, whether it be mental or physical, right? It's because that is affecting that person directly, because that person is the only thing that's really the connection between the world that exists as their reality and this alternative place that exists outside of it, right? So I would more so argue that SAO teeters on the edge of being an isekai or not, if you really wanted to get technical in it, but I feel like it fulfills the majority of what is an isekai, so it can still be part of that isekai genre, right?
That subgenre, yes, I agree with that.
Subgenre.
But if I were to slap a main genre on it, I would say sci-fi.
Sci-fi?
Yeah.
Totally.
Sci-fi fantasy. That's what I would slap main genres on.
I guess
because it has that Ghost in the Shell type of transition with technology into another world. Not that it focuses directly on that most of the time. The focus is rather later on in the series. Mm-hmm. But in the beginning, I would say fantasy is much more prevalent than the sci-fi aspect. But I would say both of them are very, very important to consider when you consider the entire series, like from then to now, like all of it.
So I'm gonna put a pin in that, and then we're gonna come back to it later, because I have a very important distinction where I'm gonna break SAO down a little bit further. It's a very, very important distinction, and it's gonna surprise you a bit. Okay.
I want to. So let's just come to a conclusion. So two of the major ones is there needs to be a transportation of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whether it be physically or mentally. Or spiritually.
Whether it be physically or mentally, that's fine. Yeah. I agree with that. And there needs to be a sense of entrapment, because I think that is an important part of it. Like Isekai kind of gives you that experience of, oh, I'm trapped in this other world. I'm separate from my worries and my troubles in my world. I can be with this character now in this world, trapped away from all those responsibilities.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah.
Like that's one of the major aspects of it. Is there anything we're missing? I think so.
I would say we're good in terms of like the mechanics of an isekai. I think we're pretty good, because I mean you could obviously go further into it, but I would say like if we were to like at its core, those are the essential needs of it that have to be there, you know. If I were to like have to add one more thing on, it would be like I was saying before, an independence between the two worlds.
Yeah,
with the character being the connection.
That's the major one that Sword Art Online doesn't fulfill.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, it does, right? Because they're
because they're interconnected. Without the real world, if they're not in the real world, they won't exist in the game. Like they would.
I mean, that's what every isekai. If none of their world existed, they would never have this other world.
No. I mean, their body is currently present in the other world. It's different to, for example, Log Horizon, where their entire body and mind is completely gone. Even if your mind is transferred completely into an avatar, for example, Overlord, I would say that is an isekai versus Sword Art Online makes it clear that when their real bodies die, they will also cease to exist as a consciousness. So I would say that that's one of the things that Sword Art Online doesn't fulfill.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll 80% agree with you on that.
Only 80%.
For
Wow.
the
Okay,
sake of it,
I'll go
because
with those odds.
yeah, okay. Yeah. Let's let's just go on because okay. I'm going to explain more
Sure, sure,
about
sure.
yeah. So okay, so the next thing do you want to go into evolving of it?
Yeah,
Uh
sure. Um, I think it's interesting that isekai has become like what you said, a subgenre, but it's also become a trigger. It's like a storytelling trigger. It's an easy way to start a story. Oh, this guy was in another world. Let's get into the story.
mhm,
Like it's sometimes not even used as an important part of the story.
mhm.
It's kind of just in the background,
Yeah.
like in Grimgar.
Yeah.
Like in Grimgar. Grimgar is a
Yeah.
good example of
Yeah.
that. It's like, oh, how do we get people to start liking the show? Oh, tell them that they're trapped here from another world and they don't know how they got here, but they
Mhm.
don't remember their previous world.
Yeah.
Um, and that automatically engages you into that story. And then they get to tell their fantasy story from that. It's like a catapult kind of.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a catapult more than actual foundational storytelling.
Yeah, and I feel like, at least in terms of what, when I watch something, when they completely ignore that and they just dismiss it and then go along with the story as is, and then it's almost like they forget they're an isekai to a certain extent, and
Yeah.
then forcefully reference it back, um whether it be intentional or not, the way that they structured it, which I think Grimgar does a good job of that, right?
Mm,
Where if we were, say we both agreed 100% isekai in every sense, right? If they're an isekai that forgets the previous world, they execute it really well.
yeah.
I think Overlord kind of does that to a certain extent, because I was feeling so lost within their world that I would forget that this show was ever an isekai in the first place,
Yeah.
right? And
And it's the same with Slime, right?
yeah,
Slime did the same
exactly.
thing.
Yeah. And but it's just like I don't know. It's I there's almost a sense of like lazy story, like lazy writing to an extent,
Yeah.
because it's more so used as like a way to just get your, like, you weren't confident enough in your abilities to present this story without having to lean on a popular trend. You know,
Yeah, that's right.
it's like back when like zombies were a thing. Oh, just throw zombies in it. It's fucking
Yeah.
fucking hit. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, No Game No Life is the same way in that way. Yeah, yeah, because it's like absolutely abandoning the old world. You're totally right, Calcifer. Yeah.
mhm. And then Akari says, like, if they wanted to do pure fantasy, but they were afraid to do so, which I would actually argue is the case with No Game No Life, because I think that
And Grimgar, I would even say
yeah,
that's the case of Grimgar too.
I think those two shows though could stand on their premise 100%. Like, they don't need the background for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they
Whereas Slime does need
does
that
need it.
background.
Yeah, because I feel like
Yeah.
they reference back to the previous thing enough where it kind of has context,
I think
woven
it's more
into
to
the
do with
narrative.
his powers. I think
Yeah,
like how he actually got his powers and where he like it's a part of his character's story. I think
yeah.
they've integrated it well enough to make it a part of his story, even though it's not referenced as much.
Hmm.
Like, oh, I got killed by a guy,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know?
Yeah,
Like they never reference it again. Like it's just a
yeah.
part of his story, and now it's past, and now he's moving on to the next stage of
It's
life.
it's like it's like the easy way out for an origin story.
Yeah, it really is. It
like
really is. I totally agree with you.
let's not give him like a very intricate and well thought out development of a character. Let's just say he died and was in a new world. you know,
Yeah.
like they make it so easy, I guess. which I guess where
Yeah.
kind of the frustration comes from in watching it, but it's also where the joint enjoyment comes out of it too as well to a certain extent.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. Yeah.
Um, cool. So then this kind of leads us into the next point, which is like why is isekai so dominant, right? Because it's an easy to grasp concept.
Yeah, it's like spoon feeding, right?
Yeah. It's which which I feel like some people are gonna be insulted, you know.
Yeah, sure. Dude, I'm insulted by that statement because I love isekai, dude.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, like I love watching lazy things because it's fun and it's easy to enjoy.
Yeah. And it's same in the way that one of the greatest anime of all time, Isekai Cheat Magician, has has been able to okay, but in all seriousness though, I think, and as much as I shit on it like in the past, and I still shit on it, you can see my daily notes on Kitsu, not daily, but my weekly notes. The funny thing about it is that as much as I hate Isekai Cheat Magician for its concept, for its execution, for the entire premises, right? It's like everything about this show, like it should be a disgrace to anime, right? Unfortunately, when you play up every single trope and you understand how to execute all the tropes, it's a pretty good time. Like you can comfortably enjoy every part of it because you're not really having a like. It's almost like you don't have to invest yourself in the characters really, because you don't feel because the sense of like it's almost like the sense of like death or loss is kind of already gone, because this person's already died. So if they die again, they're just dying again, what's to stop them from entering another world, another world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that it eliminates one of the scariest parts when it comes to storytelling, which is the loss of someone, them being gone forever, right? So you have that inherent fear that isn't really too prevalent in it, and they even like play it up 1,000 times in shows like ReZero, right? Or Konosuba,
Mm.
where they get like the restart or they get the pullback, and you normally things like that would be absolute sins in anime, right? Like for
Yeah.
example, in Dragon Ball Z, we really gave it a pass because it was like one of the four, one of the early animes that really did that heavily, where they just bring everybody back. You know what I mean? Like it's no real cost. It's all about just the fighting, but there's no real cost to anything.
Yeah.
Isekai can do that, but for in like an adventure sense, and you're okay with it because you have that pre-established context for it, and so it's harder to get as deeply invested as you would normally in traditional adventure fantasy stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think you're right in that sense. Hmm. But I think I really hate that about isekai anime though. I don't
But
know.
but it's part of the reason why it's so dominant. Like people don't want to feel disparity.
Yeah,
People don't want to feel
that's true though.
afraid
Yeah.
and
People.
scared. They want something that's happy and everything's gonna be all right. You know what I mean? In the face
Yeah,
of anything that goes wrong, and it's one of the more I think about it, the more I become less of a fan of it, which is ReZero,
yes,
because
I hate that show, dude.
the more I dwell on the show and I think about it, I start to
Yeah.
realize that it's it's very much so like they play on like the simplest of like human emotions, you know,
Mm.
which is like that impending fear or that impending feeling of loss, right? And they consistently do it, like obviously the entirety of the series, but it's almost like they have like a lot of really cool ideas, but they're always afraid to execute them, so they just implemented this restart mechanic so that no matter what, like things are just gonna be okay anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's more of an emotional loss. and detachment that he's experiencing, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the loss there is more in regards to
Yeah.
the relationships that he loses every time he resets.
Yeah.
So
And
I think yeah, I agree with you that people want to feel safe. That the amygdala, right, in your brain, like you always want to feel safe.
yeah, 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 yeah.
um,
You don't want bad things to happen. Hence why Game of Thrones was so popular, because
mm,
you actually got lost. Like, they're gone.
yeah,
Sean Bean died again.
yeah,
You know, like,
and yeah, and I think that's why in Isekai you see the popular trope of the main character being so overpowered,
mm-hmm.
because with an overpowered main character, you can always know that your your person's gonna be safe. The character you like is gonna be safe because the main character is gonna come save them.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just gonna destroy
Yeah.
everybody. Like
It's
there's no reason to worry. Like we
it
know he's coming.
yeah, and it's funny that you put it like that, because it's like it's one of the few subgenres where you're okay with the plot armor.
Yeah,
And it's not
it's really interesting.
yeah, because you inherently need the acceptance of the plot armor to enjoy the story overall. You know,
Yeah,
you're just like, oh, this
and I think
guy's overpowered, and that's okay.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. And I think that's also why it's quite dominant, because people love seeing overpowered people just owning. Like
Yeah, they like seeing
people
people
love that
win.
type of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why Madara's fight is so prevalent. Like on people love watching that type of thing because he's so overpowered.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
so
yeah.
strong,
That's why One Punch
and they
Man was
yeah,
fucking
exactly,
huge.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. People just love watching that
yeah,
stuff because it's exciting.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But the difference though is that when it comes to overpowered isekai and overpowered just in general in an anime, that looming threat of death, however strong you think the guy is in terms of One Punch Man, there is always the possibility of them losing and dying, right?
Yeah,
Whereas in isekai, that's a lot less so, because normally
yeah.
the person's either already dead, or if they do die, they get a restart.
Which
Yeah.
is interesting because I'm starting to notice that that's changing quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like even within some isekais that we're watching right now. Like obviously they're trash isekai, but they're still present. I mean, even Cheat Magician, dude.
Yeah.
Like to some extent, it still feels like they have a threat of dying.
Exactly. Which, oh my
It's really interesting.
fucking show. Which, well, I want to get more into that in this next part of it. But so yeah, basically it's a easily digestible, exciting adventure that gives you the illusion of loss.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. So after we just fucking bashed on that shit, let's talk about our favorite isekai.
Okay,
Yay.
sure. You go first.
Okay, so I have two that I absolutely have to mention. Right. So the first one is going to be Isekai Cheat Magician. Okay, because one, it impresses me as an anime in the sense that I've never seen something so generic, but then do all the generic things really well. Like the one thing that really holds it back is just the animation. Like if this show had the animation of a wise man's grandchild, I think this would be extremely popular show. And it helps that the show is extremely self-aware. Like the dude mentions cheating like in every episode, which I think is hilarious. You know, the one of the characters obvious like blatantly states that, oh, so with this amazing power, you can change worlds and destroy countries and become dominant. So what are you gonna do politically to fight against the evil within this world? Damn. And he just goes, I think I just want to go home. He's not like Overlord. He's not Overlord where he's like, I'm gonna take over this entire world and become dominant and do all this shit. You know what I mean? He's like, or he's not like Tentai Slime where I'm gonna unify all the countries to be the creature and the king and all this other shit. You know what I mean? He's just like, I want to go home. Fuck it, I'm ready to go. Peace. And it's like, oh shit, that makes fucking sense. You know what I mean? And on top of that, this is probably the most balanced isekai I've ever watched. Straight up.
Okay.
Like if
have you seen Slime?
Yeah, I've seen Slime, and I think Cheat Magician balances way better. Like,
okay, explain yourself. I don't understand.
So one of the basically a fight happens between him and another powerful entity, right? And then they
Yeah.
describe the entity as being 10 times more powerful than its base. And they described all their base power caps essentially in one episode. And I went in, like, I kind of like did simple math, and the base caps equate to a 10 times amount increase in power relative to the level that he was at. But then when he increased in power as well, it increased proportionally and had the appropriate effect on the entity he was fighting. Like it actually, I was like tripping out when I actually thought about it for a second, you know. Even though they don't give an actual name for, because they just say his power is 120,000. That's it. It's 120,000 of what, you ask? It's just 120,000. They don't even say mana. They don't say magic power. They just say you are 120,000, and they just accept it. They're like, all right, I'm 120,000. Yeah. And
Oh man.
and
Oh man.
yeah, it's yeah, it just does the tropey things really well. Like they balance it really well. Like it's just a good time. You know what I mean? It's just a good time, like, altogether. And then the second one that I would mention, I'm gonna get really hyper specific here. It's
Okay.
season 1 of SAO, but the first half.
Okay.
I think that was,
So 1 to 14, right?
yeah. So that was some of my most that was some of the most fun and exciting I've ever experienced in an isekai. Yes, granted, it was at the beginning of the popularity surge, but they understood. It felt like he understood what he was trying to do and how to execute it without really having any guidance or anything that's like a definitive, as definitive as it is now, right? Because a lot of these shows have a baseline context, right, on how to construct an isekai story, right? Whereas he kind of just wrote it out. Yeah, this idea of another world has been around for a while, but to the extent and magnitude and in anime form wasn't as prevalent as it is today. So I think he made something really well that really connected with you. And that's why it falls off in the second half, because it's almost like he kind of loses his way and tries to make it something into more than what he initially set out to be, you know. I mean, if you look in the background of SAO, I mean, it kind of makes sense why it went that way. But overall, the first half of the first season of SAO, I think it's some of the most fun and exciting isekai moments, especially if you're new to the genre. Like if someone asked me, like, hey, I want to get into isekai anime, I've heard so much about it, what should I watch? Watch the first half of the first season of SAO. Ignore the rest of it, to be honest, and you'll be good from there. Then maybe check out Tensai Slime. Go check out. I mean, honestly, I'm sucker for How to Not Summon a Demon Lord. I think that one was pretty good in terms of like ecchi comedy. Konosuba is funny. You know, Isekai Cheat Magician. Like, I just think the first half, season 1 SAO, great starter, great ignition to it, this whole subgenre of anime that we have now. So, but yeah, it did really good moments. It executed really well on a lot of different fronts, and
Okay.
I enjoyed the entire ride. Yeah, so
Interesting. Okay. Fair enough. I yeah. Okay. Let me start off by saying this. If Grimgar is considered an isekai, then that would be my favorite isekai. But since I don't consider it an isekai, I'm not gonna claim that as my favorite because I actually enjoy it more as a fantasy than I do an isekai.
Mm.
So, with that being said, I would say A Restaurant to Another World is one of my favorites. And the reason why I say that is because it is. What do you?
I love Restaurant to Another World. Go watch it.
It's so good. It's got that adventure aspect. It's kind of a reverse isekai, actually, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's another world coming to this world.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a fantastic show. It's got fantastic animation.
Delicious food.
It's not really it's not really focused on the characters really that much. It's more like episodic characters. It's called A Restaurant to Another World. It's so good.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because if any of you try to say, "Oh, the entrapment isn't there," yeah, it is. When he's in that world,
You cannot.
he
Yeah,
can't leave.
yeah. Once that door opens to that world, and it stays open for that day. It's impossible for him to go outside.
Mm-hmm.
His restaurant literally becomes a part of the other world.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
And
pretty great.
sorry, I saw Akari's comment in the chat. If reverse isekai counts, then Devil is a part timer in Recreators. You wanna go in a little bit in on those two shows?
Sure.
Um,
Recreators. Let's start with Recreators, I guess.
okay. Um, the happenings in one world again affect the other, so there's a coinciding of the two in regards to like I said, I would say earlier, like Digimon and Bleach, whereas yeah, there technically are two separate worlds in a sense, but it's not necessarily an entrapment of one into another. It's more of a summoning of another from a place to where they are now. So I would relate Recreators more so to Fate Zero in that sense, of it being like a fantasy summoning anime when they then do battle. Um,
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I think Recreators is not an isekai as it's more of an exploring of creating rather than an isekai. It's not really the focus is more on let's see all the great characters that we can invent and then let's make them meet their creators. Um, it's more of a focus on craziness rather than actually being trapped. They're more trapped within their own characters rather than another world. It's very very different to what I would say an isekai is.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, and
but a devil's a part timer though.
mhm.
That's an isekai.
I would say so. Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, I would have to admit that it is. Because
Yeah,
I
that's a
I wasn't really on board at first, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, yeah, that was probably closer to reverse isekai than or just isekai in general, because the dude is
yeah
in another world, um, and the
yeah. We
worlds
started in a
operate.
fantasy world.
Yeah, yeah, and the worlds operate independently. Um,
Yeah.
and he's trapped there, and there is a sense of there's a conflict within him between going back and not going back. But Simon, I agree with you, and Akari, I
Yeah.
agree with both of you. Yeah,
But then again, that's exactly where I disagree with you again on Sword Art Online because I think they're interconnected. They need one another. If the one world stopped existing, then the other world wouldn't exist.
yeah, but that would be the same for any of these other worlds. If any of these other worlds didn't exist, then there wouldn't be this other world.
No. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
What I'm saying is, let's take away. Okay. Let's say we're in Sword Art Online, right?
mm-hmm,
And then all of a sudden we take away the other world.
mm-hmm.
Sword Art Online will not be interdependent by itself. It will not be able to stand by itself because without
Okay,
this world, we don't have Sword Art Online because it's programming. It's within a machine, right?
yeah,
So and and if we only have Sword Art Online, then it's not an isekai anymore
mm-hmm.
because they were never transferred from another world. So it becomes an instantaneous fantasy instead. So that's why I think sci-fi is so important for this show because without sci-fi as the link, we don't even have a subgenre for isekai to be even placed onto.
I feel like you can just interchange those words out with fantasy, and then insert any of the other anime you consider isekai into that example, and then you would
You
result in the
think so?
exact same thing. Yes, you result
Okay,
because
okay.
any isekai requires the original world as the premise, as the existence for it, for the reasoning of the other one to be there. Like
No. I'm saying a constant. Like it's not when you look at
no.
let's look at Devil's a part timer, right?
Yeah.
You gets transferred from this world to this world. Obviously, you need both for that to take place.
Yeah.
But if this world stopped existing while he was in this world,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't affect this world. But in Sword Art Online, if this world suddenly stopped existing, Sword Art Online would also stop existing.
Okay. I I get what you're saying. Okay, maybe it's because the way I'm looking at it is from an intent perspective, you know? Like the guy himself is like what's it called? Like that separation between the two, like that came from like the author, like the person who made the story, you know? Like the author has to conceive both of these worlds to be there, and how the worlds interact then comes after that, right? And so when it comes to the what's it called, the existence of the SAO world, the only like real like what happens in that world beyond what happens to the characters themselves has no bearing on reality, right? Like I said, if you destroy something in Aincrad, you don't destroy anything in the real world. But if you do something to
But
yourself, then it has an effect on you in the real world in that sense, right? But regardless,
but
though, what?
if you destroy the code in the real world of a
Yes,
building, then you'll destroy the building in Sword Art Online. They're interlinked with one another.
I'm
They
gonna,
require.
I'm gonna default to the first half of the first season, okay? And I'll just end it right there. That's why I said 80%
Okay,
initially. So yeah,
sure.
we'll just pop off right there.
We'll put that on hold for the
Yeah,
rest of the stream. Let's
for
just do that.
the eternity of life. I'm putting
Okay, but
that.
I wanted just to mention some other favorites of mine. I've got two that I want to
Go for it.
mention. So one is Log Horizon, which I think is a fantastic anime. I really
Hold on.
love
Before you
the
continue,
structure.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom really quick. So just continue through your favorites.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Sorry.
All good, go. Um, uh, yeah, Log Horizon, really fantastic. I love the way that they structure their uh, laws, the way that the laws are structured, and the way that the main character utilizes that to his advantage. I think it's pretty interesting. Um, I think season 2 is good, regardless of animation quality drop. I think it's because they lost a lot of money, obviously. I think season 2 is still good in regards to story, even though there are obvious flaws. I think it's still very entertaining. I enjoyed both seasons a lot, and I'm not one to really enjoy more than one season. Like generally, I only watch one season of a show, and then I stop. Even if I enjoyed it, I just don't go to the second season because they've only disappointed me really in the past. Slight mention for Darker Than Black. And I think Log Horizon season 2 is really good, regardless. And the other one is a little bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, which is Zero no Tsukima. Excuse my pronunciation of that. I'll just write it in here for you guys.
Yeah, they'll excuse your pronunciation, but not mine. I'll just get eternally roasted for it.
That one there, that's one of my favorites. I really love that show. It's a guilty pleasure for sure. It's not yeah, it's not great. It's just fun. I really love that show.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we've discussed our favorite isekai, and to address another comment in the chat, Kins, would you say Inuyasha is an isekai? The short answer, because we did discuss this at length in the beginning, is no, would not. So to the next topic is, I don't know how much you want to go in depth on this, but ideal isekai. I actually have an ideal isekai in my head. Like it's like I'm basically gonna pitch you a story, but
okay, do you want to pitch us? I've got my whiteboard here. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
Wait, that's the wrong way around. Oh my goodness.
No, you're good.
Write backwards.
No. You're fine. You're fine. We see it correctly. Yeah, we see it correctly. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So my ideal isekai. This is my perception of it, right? And you're not gonna agree entirely with it, so fuck you. So,
Okay, let's
um,
listen.
there's a on NBC, right? The there was a show called, I think it was like Hidden Minds or something like that. But the whole premise of the show is that uh he exists in this one world, right? But then when he goes to sleep, he wakes up in another world, right? And so a lot of the basic twist of the show is that you don't know which one is the actual world, and the only way he's able to communicate with each side of the world is through his therapist, that elude him hints as to whether he's in a reality or it's a dream, or whether both worlds just exist coincidentally, right?
Yeah,
But each world doesn't necessarily affect the other directly, other than through himself, right? So what my ideal isekai, right, would be is that we have a character, right, that is in the same situation, and he's unaware of whether or not the world he's in is the real world or it's the actual dream. But I would make it so that each world, they would have a sense of it actually being a reality. So, but I would make minor differences in between the two. So, for example, it would kind of be in the essence of, old time, a future where I'm gonna have to go super extreme here, like where Nazi Germany wins, or a future where where we currently are. You know what I mean? Both are possible to exist, but he would go in
right.
between the worlds. So not to say that that would be my two worlds that I would pick. I would pick something a little bit more intricate and subtle in the details, that would kind of allude to whether which one's the dream or not the dream, or maybe they're both.
Right,
Who knows?
right.
I'm not revealing that because when I make this an actual show, y'all thank me, okay? But but yeah, that's kind of how it would transition in between these two sides of the world. So through this like dream state, which you're not even sure if it's a dream state, So you're questioning the entire time of which one is the reality and which one isn't. You know, they need to go back and forth.
Interesting.
It would be extremely. This is for you at Yale, character driven.
Yeah,
Because
love it.
the world would just be the world, and the characters would be the elements that support the main character, and he would be the primary focus, which I think fixes a lot of the issues, which is the inability for loss and the absence of fear for the character, because he wouldn't be OP, because he would essentially be living himself in two different instances, as well as that the threat of death is also real, but you don't know where it's real,
Right.
either side. So
Or if it's at both sides.
both
Yeah, that's
sides.
pretty interesting. I've never thought about that. I'm watching an isekai right now that's very similar to. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's
So
pretty much it's yeah. You're pretty much describing Inception. That's exactly what I was thinking about when you were talking. You're describing a form of Inception, right?
So people
Um,
people are saying, oh, so General Franchise is right. It was called Awake. Thank you. People are saying Matrix, Steins Gate, Inception.
yeah.
Yes, but here's the thing.
Matrix is Saya, dude.
Yeah, but with Matrix, there was a like a machine doing this. This is all internally, like in and of himself. Like he is the portal. His mind
Yeah,
is,
that's different. Yeah.
yeah, the
But Sword Art Online is definitely the Matrix, dude.
yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I'll agree
That's
with that.
pretty
But
relatable
online is,
analogy.
yeah, better, but basically the Matrix. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
If I were to go to the crux of it, I would not have thought of about your idea, which is a way cooler idea. I would just say that it's like really simplified. Like I want a character that's overpowered, but there must be a good reason for his overpowered state.
mm,
Um, and I would like, for example, Sword Art Online, Alice. Great reason. You just are because that's the basis of the world that's been created.
Oh my god, dude. Oh my god.
It's
Yes.
it's actually so genius. I think it's so interesting the
Mm-hmm.
way that Riki Kawahara did that, because the structure that he follows is very similar to the structure that Tengen Toppa follows in regards to the foundation of an ideal world, an idealism, instead of a realistic world, where we live in a world where it's like really realistic. Like when you want to achieve something just through pure willpower, you're probably gonna fail. But in Ting and Toppa Gurren Lagann, you're probably gonna succeed.
Yeah.
Your and it's the same with Sword Art Online. I think it's pretty interesting. Um, yeah, I think it's pretty fascinating that Ricky Kawahara did that with Sword Art Online, and I quite like that idea.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the second part of it is that I would love it to engage with that fantasy aspect. I love any fantasy
Mm,
world, and I think Isekai in general is great at transferring that to that. But I think it'd be great if it was interlinked, like your world, like you were describing, because that sounds like a fantasy world to
mhm.
some extent, but it does sound more like a psychological thriller, or psychological drama. That's what it sounds like to me.
I love psychological anime. Like oh my god, they always they get me going. I love to think. I love to think. If I'm watching something, like, and this is one of the reasons. It's okay. It's the reason why I can be so detailed and explained, but it's also part of the reason why I hate Yashike, or there's any anime like Monadia friends that have no reason, because I'm just questioning, and my mind is just moving like a billion miles a second. Um,
Yeah,
but it's funny as you're describing that. I'm just constructing the story in my head of how this would play out. One, he would have like a loving family where he's trying to protect that which he loves,
yeah,
and the other, he has a dysfunctional family where he's split from all that he loves. So his battle is eternally with trying to just protect himself. So you have like this dichotomy of love and hate, from each side, and it's just like trying to find the balance in between the two, and whether what's one's actual reality or not. So it's like, yeah, it's
yeah. That's pretty cool. I think that's a pretty great idea. That's a great concept.
yeah. If
Um,
anybody steals it, if I swear to God, if this becomes an announced anime, I will track everybody in this chat, and I will know who revealed my secret. Um,
Next minute, I write it.
exactly.
Oh,
um,
great.
but yeah, my actually one of my aspirations in life is to create an anime. At some point. Um, I
Oh
have
yeah.
I have this idea for an anime that I want to do. Obviously, I would do like a battle shonen. Like, that's like my first choice.
Okay.
Um,
Would you write the script, or what aspect of it would you do? All of it?
I would do all of it. I would be a part of the
Wow.
entire process, because I already have like a vision of exactly what I'd want, animation wise, story wise, character wise. Like, it's like but I've never written it down, because I'm just like a fever dream. But it's like, not fever dream, but it's like a fun little whatever dream of mine. So, but
It sounds pretty
maybe,
cool. We could talk
maybe
about
one
it
day.
in the after show.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the after show.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the last thing. Oh, do you have something else?
Yes, I just wanted to finish
Pipe
off.
dream.
So fantasy, yes, great. If you lead me towards a fantasy world and explore that fantasy world and coinciding with that isekai aspect, like, oh yes, I'm in another world and I want to go back, or I want to stay here. Like, either one of those is great. Which is a direct the best examples of those that I can remember is Slime um, and Shield Hero. That's the contrast I have. So for Slime, it's I want to stay in this world. I don't care about my old world. For this one, it's for Shield Hero, it's I want to go back. I hate this world, and I think
Mm,
that's fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Oh, that'd be sick. That'd be sick. I would
yeah,
actually probably borrow some of that to help further
yeah,
establish my basis for the one I came up with. Um,
yeah.
okay,
But
so
that's all I have to say. Yeah.
nice, nice. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the final topic and the end of this podcast as well, which is the future of Isekai. So there's two things that I kind of want to address personally. So I don't know if you have anything else. These are questions for you as well. How long do you see Isekai lasting, and what do you think is the next step in its evolution in terms of like how the premise is executed? Because I feel like we're getting a lot of summoning Isekai now with Isekai cheat, with can your mom take multi-target attack hits, Mauro retry, and what was
RF Refuta,
Ari
whatever.
Ferreira. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
whatever it's called.
So, um,
Yeah,
I'll give my quick
but
thoughts.
it's been around for a while. The summoning one though, it's been like
Yeah, but I feel like we went
constant
through a
for like
whole
4 years
death
now.
isekai one with Konosuba, uh, um, Sword Art Online to some extent, where their bodies kind of die in essence, and then they're in this other world.
Yeah.
But I would say we have maybe another. I think at the end of this year, I think we're gonna be done with Isekai, and we're gonna be on the next trend.
What? No way.
I think
That's not
so.
how it works.
I think so.
It will go. It does like. Let me explain how genres work. Like if you look at any
Quote me
genre,
on
right?
that.
You're gonna be wrong. I can assure you. Um, I think the way that genre progresses is that's not the way that it works. So it'll slowly fade out if it does. If it does go away, it will be a slow process. At the moment, I think it's at its peak. There's a lot of isekai anime, like a lot. Like every season, we're just seeing so many isekai anime, and I think that won't stop until the generation gets bored of it. And I
So
don't think people do get bored of it. I think people find it entertaining because of how trash it is,
so
and people. Oh my.
I'm gonna make Gane right now real quick. Let me get this out real quick because I'm gonna make a wild ass prediction. Isekai
Go.
is done. Okay, no more Isekai. 2020, we go into big adventure, and we only get one Isekai a year, if that, from now on. Starting next year, end of the year, Isekai
Okay,
dies.
okay.
Calling it.
Let me explain. No, let me explain to you what will actually happen. This is what happened. This is what happened last time. So isekai will start dying out, right? And then someone will make a fantasy anime about a parallel world, and then isekai will start up again because people will be reminded of it. The problem with isekai is that it has been so integrated now into our anime culture that when you write a fantasy or anything with magic in it, it will it will just not go away. The idea will always linger. Even into sci-fi, dude. Like even into sci-fi, even if you think about a sci-fi anime, right? Let's think about Ghost in the Shell is really old. I think even that has the potential to remind us, oh, isekai is actually pretty fun. We haven't really seen an isekai anime around these days. Where's our isekai? I think yeah, exactly. This is exactly what Biodoku said. Chinese isekai will take over. I think that's actually not wrong. Like I think a lot of isekai will come out of China as well. Because
Let me make a clarification here.
okay.
I said Japanese anime.
Okay,
I didn't
okay,
reference
okay,
the
okay, okay.
Koreans or
But but
or
when
the
you
Chinese.
but when you
You're stealing our next podcast topic, okay?
hold on. I'm not going to stay on that process right now, but I'm just saying that the problem with a genre disappearing is it requires people to forget. This is why we don't see a
Yo,
lot
I
of
don't remember what
sci-fi
I had for
anime.
breakfast last week, so.
No, you're
You
lying, dude.
almost agreed. You almost
Dude,
agreed. Yo, chat, you saw that. Okay. I almost got him
dude,
because
listen,
he knows he's
listen,
wrong.
listen. Sci-fi
I'm
anime,
listening.
sci-fi genre is dying because people are forgetting. People are forgetting, and they're not caring about it anymore. Like, think about it. How many sci-fi anime have you seen in the last 2 years? Like, can you even name one?
In the last 2 years,
Yeah, can you name one?
Astra Lost in Space coming out this season.
Okay. Can you name one that's good?
Big brain. People would argue that Robo Hachi's good. I've never seen
I
it, so
think
I don't have an actual opinion, okay?
but what I'm saying is that that is the example. The way that it works is that people need to stop caring about it. And because people care so much about isekai, especially in the younger community, it's gonna go into their college years, and only when they stop watching anime is the transition gonna be extended. And it's also gonna be extremely reliant on the way that our actual technology and our culture in our world actually changes, because that's the main reason why isekai became so prevalent, because we've got ideas of virtual reality gaming. We've got those ideas coming into play right now, and Sword Art Online kind of triggered that, right? And I think because it's so integrated into our society and it will just continue to be, I don't think that will change. I think if it does, it might go back to sci-fi and it will do an evil loop back into isekai again after that.
Well, I can
That's what I think.
definitely say with 100% confidence, like I've never been more confident about anything in my life. Okay, we haven't gotten the Cowboy Bebop or the Evangelion or the Full Metal Alchemist of Isekai. Um, Everything seems to taper off at a certain point, and I don't think anything's come near in terms of Isekai
In
to
terms
that
of
level.
quality, is that what you're
Quality,
talking about?
yeah,
Talking about quality.
yeah, yeah.
I think if we get a second season of Slime, we could.
The directing's real, dude. They would need to fix so much with that show. Well, not fix, but like I don't know. You would need so much. Like I don't know. I do not see it. Like I think season one already was too far gone in terms of like what it what it was trying to accomplish, and the tonal shifts were too harsh. And it didn't achieve the same level of um cementing an emotion like it did with anything else I just mentioned.
Can you mention the ones you mentioned again?
Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Um,
But the problem with that is that you're talking about something that requires meaning, and our society doesn't really like that type of idea. We don't really care for media that brings meaning into our life or brings that type of drama. I mean, look at Cowboy Bebop, Evangelion, and Full Metal Alchemist. They're all drama focused. They all have a focus on drama.
yeah,
Isekai can't have that.
but they all come at it from a different perspective. But I mean, that all plays into, so each one of those shows drastically innovated on the 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 space that it took on. None of these shows really drastically innovate and bring something that's not only classic but is going to be timeless throughout. Every single one of these shows is going to not withstand the test of time whatsoever. Whereas the ones I
Sword
just
Art Online
mentioned,
will.
not like, the first half of the first season maybe,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm talking about complete shows that
Mm.
do everything that they need to do
Okay.
and are great from beginning to end. I just don't think
Okay, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Thank you, Cypher. Oh my god, I thank you. Cypher just subscribed to the Twitch channel, and we're
Thank
two
you,
subs
Cypher.
away from our goal of getting a Chaika dance, which I'll talk about more in the after show. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything else to say, to be honest.
Yeah, so Isekai is going
That'd be
to
great.
end in 2020. It'll be non-existent. We're only gonna get one next year. Okay.
That's not what I claim, but okay, sure. Let's see.
Big adventure in the future.
Doubt. I doubt.
Okay. Anyways, yo, thank you everybody in the chat for tuning in, being about it, and hanging out with us, even though we didn't have Kuro here. I would say, we still did a damn good job, even though we were without our Shonen Queen.
Yeah.
I think we pulled off a pretty quality episode. But for real though, thank you guys for the follows, the subscriptions. Everything goes back into the channel. We are trying to buy a new microphone for Kuro because she desperately needs it. So anything that goes into this channel, it's like I'm already reinvesting it. None of it goes to me, and it all goes into improving this stream because this is the #1 anime stream on Twitch. Okay, I can say that because there are none, so we're by default the #1. But
Amazing.
yeah, I appreciate
Amazing.
every one of you guys. Be sure to check out all our social medias. Check our panels down below on the Twitch channel. Yes, I did make them, and yes, they look badass.
They do.
But yeah. So thank you. I don't know what else to say.
Guys.
Yeah. But yeah, so be sure to tune in next week at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Every single Thursday we do the podcast. No matter who we have or don't have, we still doing it. You guys remember Saturday 10 a.m. Pacific Standard, we're doing the cooking stream, which you guys can all catch the VODs on Twitch or on the YouTube channel. Sunday, we're doing our EU-friendly 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time stream where we just talk about anime and anyone can join and hang out. Those VODs are only available on Twitch because copyright exists. But apart from that, thank you guys for tuning in. This is going to be the end of the podcast. Like I said, check out all our stuffs. And yeah, we love you. Appreciate you.
See you
And we
later.
thank you. See you guys next time.
See you next
Bye.
week.